All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Friday night FST Improv interview. This is Will Luera, Director of Improvisation here at Florida Studio Theater in Sarasota, Florida. I hope all of you are doing well out there. Welcome once again to our Friday night interviews. As folks know, we've been doing these for the last month or so, last 6 weeks or so, interviewing improv teachers, directors, performers from all around the country and soon all around the world as well. We introduce a surprise topic with them, and then we see where it goes from there. Talking about improv, talking about life, sharing memories, and who knows what else will come up. Now tonight's guest has been a friend of mine for a number of years. We've been I should say I've been lucky enough to be able to share the stage with her. We've been able to talk shop backstage at festivals. We've been able to hang out in so many different cities, and it is awesome to have her here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the FSD Improv Zoom stage. Let's hear it for Kristen Schier. Yes, Kristen.
Hello.
Hi, how are
Welcome.
you?
Oh, I'm so well. Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Yeah, thank you for being here. You're definitely one of the folks that I enjoy talking shop with and just hanging out with. Like I was saying at the end of the intro, I respect what you do in the art, but you're also a very good friend, and it's great to have share the next 45 minutes together.
Likewise, Will. Likewise. Thank you.
And so you are zooming in from Portland.
That's right. Portland, Oregon, all the way on the West Coast.
Yeah. So now, when I first met you, that's not where you were at, right? You were in Philadelphia. You were based out of Philly.
That's
Now,
right, for a long time.
was Philly home?
Yeah,
I mean, your hometown.
actually, I was born in Chardon, Ohio, but
Okay.
Philly was the place I lived the longest in my life and definitely the home base for my improv growth and experience there.
Yeah. Now, is that where you started to do improv? Was in Philly?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Excellent. And then what took you to Portland was this opportunity to work with Curious Comedy.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Cool. Excellent. So as you heard me talk about, I introduce a topic to our guests, and as many of the listeners and students of ours know, I put all of these topics line up with different classes in our curriculum. We have a 6 level curriculum, 8 weeks each level, so it's about 48 different topics. I put all of those into a randomizer, and whatever pops up, that's what we're going to be talking about. So the one that popped up for you was slow burn scene work. Slow burn scene work.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, and
Nice.
and so I'll talk about the way we talk, the way we teach it in our class. So we do this. It is at the top of our level 5 class. So our students have gotten really used to doing they're at this point pretty proficient at maybe like 2 to 3 minute scenes, maybe like that's kind of where they've been working in the last 4 levels. And then in level 5 we're like, okay, we're now going to push that. We're going to start to go 5 minutes, and in fact the whole class we spend first, everybody gets to do a 5 minute scene, and then we go 6 minutes, and then 7 minutes, and these are meant to be mono scenes, just to
Right.
try to work that stamina to go that long distance in a scene. And part of what we look at is the idea of just a slow burn, like not overloading the scene with all your jokes and ideas and character tricks and all of that at the top, but just let it ride and see where it goes. So I wanted to that's our topic for today, and just wanted to see, we'll open up with your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Oh, I have so many that are coming to mind. And those are the types of scenes that I really enjoy playing. And that's why I think I have a lot of things bubbling to the surface to talk about them. So
Awesome.
let's hit the brakes and talk about one thing at a time, right?
Good. Okay.
So for me, when you say slow burn scene, like I think it exemplifies patience, right? It's not that nothing is happening, something is going on, and the improvisers are tending to it really well. What they're doing is they're managing the tension in the scene, and they're exploring that tension between the two characters and expanding it, contracting it, and playing with it. And they're really focused on what is happening in the scene. Like you mentioned, not just throwing in things here and there out of left field. The scene is about one thing, it's got a focus. And because we are exploring that one thing, we're doing so in a way that's deeper, not wider, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The first thing that came to my mind was being okay with silence,
Yeah. Hmm.
taking the time to absorb what's been said, letting it rattle around in your cage, right? Being
Hmm.
hit by the traffic of the scene and allowing it to affect you. And so that, so taking your time with that before you just go into a knee-jerk response or a response that's kind of from your agenda, right? That
Hmm.
kind of lives in your head and is not really where the scene is being played. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
So being okay with silence as something that grows the tension in a scene,
Yes. I
right?
like that. I like that. Yeah, that's good. Oh, that was good. But no, but that was a good example. That was a very good example of like even me just being like, I'm like, that's what would happen to me in an improv scene. And I gotta be okay with like, purposeful, meaningful silence.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And then there's other things like I think sometimes an improviser who is really paying careful attention and doesn't let anything pass through the gate.
yeah.
Like something is said, like that thing doesn't get through the gate without being checked out, without being understood, without
Mm,
registering, right? It doesn't
yeah.
get by them. It doesn't get past them.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that's a great sort of just visual description, metaphor of what's going on in the scene. And yeah, like I do find myself in those kind of scenes, like just in listening with so much intention. And sometimes I will be like, I'm listening, and it's a little bit like kind of going off of what you were saying, like scanning something. I'm gonna move forward with it like in a shopping way. Like I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm gonna be, let me put this here, and oh, you said that, I'm gonna put that here. Oh, you said that
Yeah.
too. Good. Okay. I'm just gonna put it all here, and when it's time to check out, I'm gonna start to bring stuff out, and we're gonna look at it now. We're gonna
Yeah.
unpack it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna hang on to it. Yeah, I like the image of putting it in your back pocket, right? It's
Yeah.
with you,
Yeah.
it's by you, it's near you, it registers. Yeah, I think it's so important to listen like that and to listen for, the things that are interesting in the scene and to be responding to them
Hmm.
in that way. Yeah.
One of the things so in this one level of my class, that one of the things that I started doing that drives some of my students crazy at first is so I do two types of exercises that I put under the idea of scenes about nothing is what I'm telling them to do. I'm like, I want you to do a scene about nothing. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, what's going to happen is that I'm going to give you there's two rounds that I do. The first one is I'm going to give you a location, and I don't want anything. I want it to be boring. In other words, I just don't want you uh, I don't want you to keep to try to stay busy with things going on. There's no emergencies. Nothing is wrong. It's the perfect work day or the perfect day at home. You're reading your newspaper. You have a cup of coffee. It's not too hot. There's no bad news in the paper. It's all great, right? And
Yeah.
so, and I do that, and it like the first time they run through it, they like you said, knee jerk reaction. They'll like something has to be wrong. And the moment they do it, I call them out. I'm like, no, 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 no. Everything's cool. Everything's great. Just talk to the other person.
Yeah.
Don't look for an emergency. Just talk to them. And it's amazing. Like I try to coach them through that to just try to get them to just ride the scenario, ride the relationship, listen to each other instead of trying to invent things. Just look at the other person, and then eventually, then the scene starts to come out. The scene starts to come out from just looking at each other, right? And so
Yeah.
that's one version, and I do that. We do that for like a few rounds, and then the next one, what I do is a very common exercise that we've all done is I have them do a job that is very active, that's using their hands, a lot of physicality, whatever, digging, they're sawing, whatever. But I'm like, you cannot talk about that activity at all. You got to
Right.
talk about something else, right? And but keep doing it, keep cooking those burgers, but talk
Yeah.
about something else, right? And so those are the two that I do in that week, and it drives them crazy because up until this point they've been very much like I find it, I find the game of the scene, I heighten it and I resolve it, and now I'm
Yeah.
like, just take it easy, everything is okay.
Yeah, so I have a couple of thoughts in response to that. Like one, I remember in a class I took with you, a workshop I took with you, and I've hung
Mm-hmm.
on to it because it's really good. People are maybe more interested in contrast than they are in conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you find that conflict right away, sure, that's something you can play, but like maybe you need to know your point of view first, and maybe these two characters just have a contrasting point of view, and
Yes.
they're not necessarily in conflict with the world, because sometimes what we do is we false start a scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
We say, oh, I'm going to get on this motorbike. Oh no, it doesn't have any gas and the brakes are done and blah, blah, blah. And then you take the scene that you wanted to do away from yourself.
Yeah.
Because maybe you sense that you should stall somehow, like it's too perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But we
You
can
just
live. Yeah, go.
Oh, you just reminded me of another false start scene that I've seen a number of times. Is the it's like a shopping scene. It's like, oh yeah, oh we're gonna get this, we're gonna get that. Then they take out their improv wallet of that could have anything in it. They
Yeah.
pull it out, and now suddenly their credit cards are gone and there's no money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you could have bought that thing and just
Let's
kept going.
be, yes, let's be in the world we want to be in, and let's
Yeah,
all have enough money for the things we need in our improv scene, right?
yeah.
Let's eat the cookies that we baked because they're delicious, right? Yeah, I love that. And then the other thing that I thought about is I think a lot of times when students there's like this seduction of game, right? And
Yeah.
game is so important, but it really lives in contrast to the base reality. And
Yes.
people don't spend enough time investing in the base reality and
Mm-hmm.
spinning both of those plates. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of times I talk about, okay, whoa, go back to the base reality. Rest the game. And that is going to help us with that tension. We're managing that tension, right? It
Yes.
happens once, it's an incident. It
Yep.
happens twice, it's a coincidence.
Uh-huh.
So now the hair's standing up on the back of our necks because something we've recognized that something's about to happen. The third time that tension is released, that pattern is broken. We all know about the magic of threes, right?
Yeah.
But often we go to that right away and we don't build the tension in between one and two. And the way to do that is to go back to the base reality and talk about what kind of pizza shop we're in and how long we've been coming there and how the sauce
Yeah.
is, just the right mix of sweetness and savory. And that's why we go here on our lunch break. Like, let's invest in
Yeah.
that base reality.
That's one, and it's like, and people will often tell me when they're first doing this, they're like, "But how is this interesting? Why is the audience enjoying? How is this?" And I'm like, trust me. Like if you invest in this reality and really take your time exploring the details, the audience is going to come with you, and they're going to be equally as invested, and they're going to be so
Yes.
interested in discovering this with you,
Yes.
right? And eventually they start to yeah, and well, let me backtrack and say that my curriculum is constantly changing, and the whole idea of the game of the scene, or however you want to put it, this the tilt of the scene, the whatever, introducing the conflict, however you want to frame that. It's moved deeper and deeper into my curriculum now, where it's now it's halfway through level 2 now, because I spend so much time on like just get the base reality. Like
Yeah,
let's really get good at that before we
exactly.
start to tilt it.
Yeah, 100%. And I have a couple of things about that. So,
Yeah.
your students are asking like, how is this interesting? And
Yes.
I took a workshop once also with Neil Casey, who's an incredible performer from
Yes.
all over. You've seen him on television, and he had this amazing note at one point in the workshop, which was, if you're not funny, at least don't be annoying. And here's where my brain connects to that. Basically, like, we want to do improv that makes people like lean in rather than makes them go like, oh, okay, I'm not, I'm not interested in this, right? And so let's not worry necessarily about being funny, and let's just trust, like, the audience has trusted us with their evening. Let's show them that we're worth trusting by being confident, calm, patient. And I do this exercise with students called Scenes as Yourself, where they are just playing themselves, right? Much like you talk about a scene about nothing. This is, I think, a variation on it. And we give them a topic to talk about that's people usually have strong opinions about, but isn't too scandalous or divisive. So they might talk about, going back to the pizza shop metaphor, like pineapple on pizza. Are you for it or against it, right? For it, by the way. I lost 50% of your viewers or more just now. But they do scenes as ourselves, and they're wondering, they're like, am I enough? Like, am I interesting enough? And you are. Human beings are fascinated by human beings and by human behavior. And your first job as an improviser is to be present and to show up. And no mask of, panic and being on the treadmill of trying to be funny is going to hide you.
Yeah.
You have to be present and available. And I have seen students in this context have the richest, most deepening conversations where they actually connect with other students in the class, get to know them.
Yep.
And like, if you're wondering, how do I heighten that scene? Obviously, within the context of a class and making everybody feel safe, ask a deeper, more personal question. The other person isn't obligated to answer, but like, what's going to bring you closer to somebody? What's going to be more vulnerable? And being vulnerable is our first job, right? Like, if you want to be funny, be real. If you want to be real, be vulnerable. Thank you, Liz Allen, right?
Wow.
Like it's just, that's just the way to have people compelled by what you're doing on stage. Make them lean in.
I love that. That's all. That's some really good stuff. One thing that you said there that I wanted to remember was that reminder that you are enough. Like, what you are bringing to the stage is enough. I think it's good to, of course, we all are. We're continuing to learn, and maybe we even model some moves off of somebody that we admire. Maybe we're continuing to be students of life and continuing to inform ourselves in so many different ways. But in whatever phase you are in that evolution of self, that person that has arrived to the theater that night is enough. Like that's who I want to play with. Whoever you are right now in your evolution as a human being is who I want.
Yeah. Yeah, because no one's going to improvise just like you, right? You're the
Yeah.
only one, and no one's going to necessarily make the choices that you make. And that leads me back to the other thing of like, a sustainable scene is just basically a scene that you're committed to playing. Yeah, and that commitment is where the real yes shows up, right? Because if you're only half committed, you're not really saying yes to the scene. And when we're in that commitment, that's what matters. It's not necessarily the choices that we're making, it's the commitment that is going to pay off in the long run. And so sometimes you kind of have to work by faith a little bit. Like, you can't really tell what it's going to yield, but if you stay committed, there's something there. And I'm reminded also of like Susan Messing, like, slow down, taste your food, right? Like, slow down, taste your food. Don't fart and run. Smell your farts.
Yeah.
It was a very crude way of saying it, and that is going to be, well, that's a slow burn scene and a silent, it's a silent but deadly scene. That's what it is.
Like that. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna have to like add that to the curriculum.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Now your improv style? How would you describe it? Like what I mean, because when I watch you, I mean I notice a lot of I mean, you're a very smart player, like smart verbal player, but you're also a very physical player. And sometimes I see people lean one way or the other, but you seem to be able to shift gears pretty easily. And when you play physical, I see you really play physical and almost. And I don't know if this would be accurate, but I mean, is there? I don't know if you have clowning training, or something like that.
Yeah.
But that level of physicality as well.
Yeah, thank you. I do love playing physical. I like making like big character choices. And early on in my improv career, I think I made big character choices maybe out of fear, right? Like
Mhm.
kind of puffing like a cat who's puffed up to look bigger than they actually are. But now I think I've come back around as I've evolved. Like I had to kind of learn to play closer to myself and not necessarily these big characters, but I enjoy that now. So I kind of come back to it. And yeah, like I think though all of the characters that I play are pretty similar. I feel like I'm always a bear with a hat on. Like every picture of me doing improv is something like like that. Just like I appreciate that, and I just love being mischievous on stage.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
whether that is in a verbal way or a physical way, that's kind of what I like. I kind of like messing with things.
You also like lifting people up.
Oh, I do. I do. I think I have a picture of you and I should find it. I don't know if I can during the our talk. I don't want
Uh-huh.
to necessarily divide my attention that way, but I think I have a photo of us playing at Stumptown in Portland,
Uh-huh.
where I may have picked you up.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Now I did prep this, so
Oh, very good.
it's not me, but it is you
Oh, right.
lifting
You're just on
somebody.
stage. That's right. That's right.
So it's this one here.
Oh, yeah. That's yeah. That's
I,
my friend Fred.
I mean, that's a solid lift. Like, look at. I mean, your legs are at full extension, right? And
Right?
like you have a good core, good tight core as you lift them. And I think that's really impressive. And but I remember even I think for that same show, I believe part of the pre-show check-in was you saying, "I will lift you if I have the opportunity," or something like that. You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if you're not afraid to be lifted, I will lift you up. And
Yeah, just a
I,
check in there. I do
yeah,
love it. I do love it. The thing that's tricky and is people tend to think that it does take a whole lot of strength, but I have such a low center of gravity and a low base that it's pretty easy for me. And Fred, who's an amazing performer, improviser himself, is it probably weighs 30 pounds soaking wet. So
yeah. I have an improv friend. I think you know him, Paul Dome. He's my
yes.
he's my improv like carry around buddy. Because same thing. The guy's very light, and I just like to. He and I already have a trust and an understanding that if I will lift him up.
So I know who's doing the interview here, but I know that you've been into CrossFit lately,
Yeah,
and I wonder
yeah.
if you've found any connections between CrossFit and improv that
Hmm.
that like have come to you.
Great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yes, there's one thing that I admire about CrossFit that I want to bring more into the improv world, and there's one thing that I've learned about through CrossFit that has more affected me as a teacher than as a performer, and that is the way that CrossFit workouts are structured. I mean, it's 1 hour, and it's a very tight hour of work, and it's really like it's. You work out all the muscles independently first, then you start to warm them up, you start to combine them, right, to kind of get whatever the workout of the day is. You're working up to that, right? So first you do stretching, you do certain things isolating the muscles, then you start to combine them, right? And then by the time you get into the workout, everything is ready to go, and you do an intense, it could be as short as 7 minutes, it could be as long as 40 minutes, but then you have to focus on that. And then there's a
Yeah.
cool down or a cool down afterwards. And it's a very well structured 1 hour of work. And it's really made me appreciate like putting together my curriculums of like warm ups. And I've always been good about putting in improv warm ups for the class, but now I've
Right.
been much more conscious of like really making sure that the warm ups are intentionally building up the muscles that we're going to be working on that day. And
Yeah.
it's gotten really good now. I have to say I've been very proud of myself. And like by the time we get to the main exercise, I'm able to say that's why we did that warm up at the beginning of class. And
Yeah.
you didn't know
Yeah.
why we were doing it, but it's all leading up to this moment right now.
Yeah.
So
That's
as a
great.
teacher, that's how it's affected me. Now, philosophically, in CrossFit, there's this one practice that you do that you, unless you have to go to work or you have kids to take care of or something that you need to leave, you don't leave the workout area until the last person finishes. So you stay, and in fact, you even root them on. You cheer for them. So even if you finished first, you stay until the last person finishes, which I
Yeah.
think is a very like caring aspect of CrossFit. That you're all in it together,
Yeah. That's awesome.
and
I
so it
like
really
that.
makes you like because one thing, and I've seen it happen in improv where we start to like I've seen students like not root against, but like if there's a weaker student or maybe somebody who's not getting it as fast as everybody else, there's been cliques that form, and then suddenly, and not even students, but casts as
Yeah.
well, and then suddenly there's a runt that develops because everybody else has decided to isolate that person,
Yeah.
and
And they
and
don't
CrossFit.
understand. Yeah. They
Oh,
don't
I'm sorry.
understand that working with that person is like probably going to be their biggest breakthrough because
Yes,
they can't figure out how to play with that person. But once they do, look out. They probably have gained a whole new and stretched a whole new
yes,
muscle. Yeah.
absolutely agreed. Yeah, so that's the one thing that like CrossFit has really made me appreciate, and even more. And I'm like, I need to be able to. I want to transfer that mentality over to improv a bit
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
I see that happening sometimes in my classes. I think it's important, and you'll hear me like I am like a broken record sometimes. I'm like, just join right away. That's just
Mhm.
when somebody walks out, no matter who they are, what they're doing, join right away. They're
Yeah.
proposing a scene, they need a scene partner, get out there. You don't know what's happening, I don't care, right? Join right
Yeah.
away. Join
Yeah.
right away. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll sometimes when I'm having people like having trouble sort of finding it's like skipping rope. They're having trouble just getting in there. Like in that same spirit of join right away. I'll just tell them like mirror that whatever that person is doing, just mirror them. What are they cooking? Are they fishing? Are they just go ahead and do what they're doing, and that at least gives you a synchronized point to enter the scene, and then
Yeah.
we could start to find the characters from there. But at least you're there with them. At least you're out there with them.
Right, yeah. And with is such a big thing, like, right? You're not improvising at them or in spite of them or around them, right? Especially
Yeah,
if you consider them a weaker improviser,
yeah,
right? They probably just have different skills than you do,
yeah,
yeah. And those skills are probably a compliment if you work it right.
yeah,
People just need to reorient their focus, like they focus on what they're going to get out of that moment and how they're going to look, right? As opposed to, who am I stepping out on stage with? What do they do well? And how can I
hmm
set them up to do that thing?
hmm
Because if they win, we win,
yeah,
right? Yeah. When they finish the workout, we all get to go home, you
yeah,
know?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
yeah, and CrossFit has also helped me lift people up, like literally.
that's great. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I just love it. I love it. I think it's so fun. Like, and I
Yeah,
also think it's like kind of, I don't know, trivia. It's like a beautiful metaphor, right? It's like, we're
yeah,
going to lift you up. Like, here we go. Yeah. So whenever I can lift people up, I try to do it. I enjoy it. I'm also like infamous on the teams that I play with. I have good rapport with. Hopefully, I'm and they are like, look out, Kristen might kiss somebody tonight. Like, and again, I want to be very clear. Like, I'm not saying without consent or against their
No, no, of
or
course.
against their their participation in it. But like, yeah, like those are the things, and I think it's all about connection and support.
Yeah.
Right. And those are just extreme examples of connection and support.
And like trusting that no one is going to abuse that, right? Like that's a
Right.
big thing. Like for you to, for Kristen or any other performer to share that at a check-in,
Right.
that's also I mean, that's a trust on me, right? Like I have to trust you, but you also have to be willing to trust me that I'm not going to suddenly go on stage every other scene and do a kissing scene,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to abuse. We don't want to abuse that trust. Um,
100%. Yeah. And it's all those conversations, like those conversations matter, like those check-ins and connecting even before you go on stage with someone, right? And seeing, yeah, what they're anticipating, where their head is, what they like doing when they improvise, what's going to take them out of it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Do you guys do check-ins before classes and stuff? Do you have students like share about their day, or do you just dive right in?
We do check-ins, and I'm
Yeah.
very happy now that more and more places are doing it because I used to years ago. I've been doing this for a while, but I used to get criticized a little bit for it because it'd be like, "Hey, we want to get into it," and I'm like, "Well, I think we need to see where everyone's at. Like people just need a chance to share that."
Yeah.
And sometimes I think I also take it as a moment to calibrate. Like I think people sometimes need to emotionally and psychologically calibrate themselves before going into this what can be a very vulnerable art form.
Yeah, I agree. It's so important. It's really good, and it's actually like some of the like most memorable times I have with people is like right before classes, right before shows, and they're just being their authentic selves, and they're just
Yeah.
sharing, and then it's like great. Now I feel even more connected to you, and we're going to go out on stage and do this crazy, bizarre thing. We don't know what's going to happen, but I
Yeah.
know that you're with me, and I know that
Yeah.
and I'm with you. I think it's great, and that connection I think does make for more playable scenes and more like sustainable, longer scenes, like you're talking about, because
Hmm.
like if you think about that the times that you spend with like a friend where they don't really have any expectations of you, you don't necessarily
Hmm.
have to be any kind of way, you don't have to be doing anything super entertaining, you can just be hanging out together, and like it's great because
Yeah.
it's a restorative, like peaceful, like wonderful time. Like that's what these slow burn scenes can be like too. You're
Yeah.
out there on the stage with somebody that you just trust completely. So nothing has to happen.
Hmm.
You don't have to make anything happen. You can
Hmm.
just be present. I
Oh,
mean, yeah.
yeah, there it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, yeah, but that trust thing, as you were saying that, it reminded me of like, yeah, achieving that level of trust with your fellow performer in these slow burn scenes. Like, there's this one thing I love when I'm with somebody that I could, for lack of a better term, like I could turn my back to them, like they could be behind me, and they'll be doing something in the scene, and maybe it's even getting tons of laughs, right?
Right.
But I trust them enough that I'm going to stay in character, and I'm not going to do one of these improv moves, one of these like, what's going on over there? Like, what's
Yeah.
it? But right, but I'm gonna fully trust that me doing this plus that person doing that is entertaining and it's interesting, etc. Because I do see like I've seen like one of those panic moves, like knee jerk reactions, or like this was panic moves of like I've seen improvisers just be like, okay, what's happening, and it pulls them out of character. And I sometimes have to be like, this trust that your scene partner is doing what is best for you at this time, even if you can't see them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's so cool when you see that, and it's so cool when you see performers who have that well in hand, and
yeah,
like, yeah, because too many times people just step on the moment.
Yeah.
Like it hasn't resolved at all. Like it's still
Yes.
resonating in the space, whatever that moment is, and
Mhm.
they cut it off at the knees because they need to, do the thing that's in their head,
And
right?
that's
Yeah.
the panic. Those are panic moves, especially going back to something you brought up, the moment of silence. Like sometimes something happens and we're letting it sit in that silence. But then sometimes somebody panics and like slices through that, and then that
Yeah.
tension is gone.
Yeah.
Uh, wow. Well, cool, Kristen. This has been super interesting to talk about. You've definitely the way you frame it, the imagery that you've used to help me really dig deeper into this whole idea of slow burn scenes, and I think people will find very useful when they listen to this in conjunction with the class that they're taking.
I thanks. I also likewise like
Mm-hmm.
taking a lot of stuff in that you said, and it just confirms, like, yeah, it confirms, the suspicions that patience will be rewarded.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, are you other than co-artistic director, are you in any on any doing any other projects right now?
Yeah, me and my friend Nick Gillette actually have a show in a little bit called the Wadsworth Constant Live, and
Okay.
it's an improvised absurdist play. So we kind of play in the style of like Pirandello, Ionesco, Beckett, but more hopefully contemporary feeling.
Cool.
And yeah, I love playing with Nick. Definitely some slow burn scenes are gonna
Okay.
gonna hopefully gonna be in that show. And we're hoping to make that a monthly project. So
Cool.
be on the lookout for it. Yeah.
Awesome. So, where is it going to be? Where can people find it online?
You can find it online right now. You can go to my Facebook page,
Okay.
Kristen Schier. It's there. And my friend Nick's Facebook page. We're kind of doing it independently,
Okay.
and doing a month. And then some stuff from Curious will be coming out soon. We're doing sketch shows like Rewired, in September and October. And Curious is kind of figuring out what content to put out right now, but we got those wheels turning. Yeah.
Awesome. That's so great to hear, Kristen. Thank you so much for doing this. That was just so informative. It was such a juicy conversation on slow burn scene. So I really appreciate it. And once again, folks who are watching, you can learn more about Kristen through Curious Comedy or finding her on Facebook as well. So Kristen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone else for watching. We'll be announcing our next guest soon. So we'll see you next Friday at 7 o'clock here on the FST Improv on the FST Improv Facebook page. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.